Angkor Wat, Cambodia's iconic ancient temple, attracts thousands of tourists each year and is one of the great archaeological sites of the world. Yet many don't realize it's just one part of a vast ancient city, itself a small piece of a sprawling empire that once stretched across modern-day Cambodia, much of Thailand, southern Laos, and parts of Vietnam. For centuries, dense jungles, modern settlements, and the scars of war concealed the full scope and sophistication of this civilization. That changed with groundbreaking LiDAR surveys in 2012 and 2015, which mapped roughly 2,100 square kilometers, or 810 square miles of terrain. These scans revealed an engineered landscape unlike anything seen in the pre-industrial world, including a hidden city, massive dams and canals, monumental earthworks, mysterious mound fields, and mile-long spiral embankments whose purpose remains unknown. This is my favorite episode yet. There are just so many astonishing details about a very ancient civilization rarely explored in depth. You're not going to want to miss it. If this part of the world interests you, I'm excited to share that I'm co-hosting a tour to Cambodia this November with Derek Olson of Megalithic Marbles. This tour is going to be incredible. We'll visit the most famous sites, like Angkor Wat, as well as lesser-known locations, some of which I'll talk about today. For those joining us, we'll offer private presentations, very similar to the episodes I put out, discussing the research, history, and mysteries of these sites. If this episode, or the other ones I've done on Cambodia, have piqued your interest, and you'd like to explore these places with Derek and me, please check out our tour link in the description below. I'd be honored to have you join us on this unforgettable trip. Okay, let's get started. I'll start by saying that the official timeline dates the construction of most of these sites to the 9th to 15th centuries AD, attributing their construction to the Khmer Empire. Some sites are dated slightly earlier, but none are considered particularly ancient by mainstream archaeology. I won't dwell on debating these dates today, but I will say that visiting Cambodia in person raises serious questions about the official timeline, especially the way the sites have been dated relative to one another. I've explored these issues in depth in my episode with Derek Olson on the forbidden secrets of Angkor Wat and my video on Sambor Prey Cook. Links to both of these descriptions are below if you want to dig deeper. Angkor Wat and its northern neighbor Angkor Thom formed the heart of the empire, located just north of Siem Reap in north-central Cambodia. The Angkor Archaeological Park, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, spans 400 square kilometers and includes 72 major monuments, including the iconic Angkor Wat, the Bayon Temple with its stone faces, and the pyramids of Bak Se Cham Krom and Phnom Kulen. This empire was controlled from the capital of Angkor through the extensive network of raised earthen roads that extends over 1,000 kilometers, or 600 miles. Main arteries connect Angkor to distant sites in modern Thailand, Laos, and across Cambodia. These roads, up to 10 meters wide and elevated 5 to 6 meters in some places, were equivalent to a modern 3-lane highway spanning from London to Rome or New York to Chicago. These overland routes were equipped with staged temples, or fire shrines, single-structure temples of sandstone and laterite placed roughly 15 kilometers apart, a distance matching half a day's travel. Laterite is a stone native to Cambodia that is unique because it's soft when quarried, but hardens once it's exposed to air. It's used in construction across the empire and forms the core of many of the pyramids and temples, including Angkor Wat. The road system also features laterite arch bridges. They range in size from spanning major river crossings to small culverts. These bridges were engineering marvels, some spanning nearly 80 meters, with 20 or more corbelled arches. Many are adorned with nagas, a multi-headed mythical serpent, that stretch across the entire length of the bridge. These bridges were so well engineered that some remain drivable today with modern vehicles. But the empire's hydrological achievements are among its most impressive feats, spanning over 1,500 square kilometers. At the temple level, moats were a common feature, with Angkor Wat being the most famous example. Angkor's moat measures 1,500 meters from east to west and 1,300 meters north to south and is 200 meters wide. Yes, the moat is nearly a mile long on its longest side. Constructing it required moving an estimated 5 million cubic meters of earth, the equivalent of filling 1,800 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Beyond moats, the empire built a 1,000-kilometer-long canal network in the Angkor region, with additional systems connecting outlying sites. The canals linked temples, rivers, and reservoirs, forming one of the largest pre-industrial water management systems in history. The pinnacle of this engineering were the Barays, massive rectangular reservoirs with raised earthen dikes typically 3 to 5 meters deep. Angkor's 5 major Barays cover 11,300 acres. In the photos I have on the screen, you can see that the two largest Barays, the Western and Eastern Barays, compared to Angkor Wat, which I've circled here at the bottom of the slide. These Barays are almost incomprehensibly large. The Eastern Baray is 7.5 kilometers long and almost 2 kilometers wide, and the Western Baray is even bigger, just under 8 kilometers long and 2 kilometers wide. These remain the largest hand-cut reservoirs on Earth. Building them required moving 138 million cubic meters of earth. And to put this in perspective, the Great Pyramid of Giza has a volume of about 2.6 million cubic meters, which means you could construct 53 solid earthen pyramids the size of the Great Pyramid of Giza with the amount of earth that was required to build just these two Barays. This network of roads, bridges, canals, and Barays stretched across Cambodia, Thailand, and Laos, transforming the landscape on an almost unimaginable scale. As I mentioned, before 2012, jungle overgrowth, settlements, and war obscured the full extent of this empire. But the 2012 to 2015 LiDAR campaigns mapped a cumulative 2,100 square kilometers and changed everything. For those who aren't as familiar with LiDAR, this technique utilizes laser beams, which are transmitted from a device carried on a plane or a helicopter. These laser beams are able to penetrate deep forest canopies and map hidden archaeological features across vast areas. These surveys covered key areas of the temple, including the Angkor complex and beyond. And what did they uncover with these scans? Let's start with Angkor Wat. As you can see from the photo on the screen, Angkor is covered with thick trees. Under these trees, however, LiDAR discovered a grid-like pattern of mounds across much of the Angkor Wat complex. These weren't small mounds either. They ranged from 1 to 3 meters high and up to 50 meters wide. It's estimated that the Angkor Wat enclosure alone contained approximately 280 mounds. Similar mound fields were found throughout the empire. While nobody knows their true purpose, archaeologists are calling them occupation mounds. They believe people built elevated platforms on top of these mounds to live above flood-prone areas. However, given the sophisticated moat and canal system built at Angkor Wat, flooding most likely wouldn't have been a significant issue. But it wasn't just mounds that were discovered at Angkor Wat. Adjoining the southern side of the moat, LiDAR revealed a series of rectilinear, coil-shaped embankments. This particular feature, built all along the south side of Angkor Wat, is 1,500 meters by 600 meters, or a mile long and half a mile wide. It consists of 10-meter wide banks arranged around small ponds with continuous channels between them. I'll read to you from an archaeological report on the site. The rectilinear, coil-shaped embankments are of indeterminate function and with a form never before documented in Angkorian archaeology or iconography. However, ground verification and preliminary analysis reveal no apparent function relating to agriculture, occupation, or water management. What on earth are these things? What are their purpose? Some archaeologists have proposed that they could be gardens or an agricultural feature. Others have even suggested it may have been a staging area for building Angkor Wat, later abandoned as the temple took shape. I don't claim to know what these are, but I believe they had a very significant purpose. Just like the mound fields, these spiral embankments were found in other parts of the empire as well, always near large bodies of water. We'll spend more time on these later, but before we move on, I wanted to show an artist's recreation of what Angkor may have looked like when it was first constructed. Of course, this recreation assumes that the mounds were used as houses. But if that is an incorrect assumption, it could have instead looked more like the mysterious Mima Mounds in Washington state, but laid out in an organized grid pattern across the landscape. Here's a look at the new archaeological map of the Angkor complex, based on the analysis of LiDAR imagery. You can see that Angkor is in the middle, with the spiral embankments to the south. Notice the scale of the man-made landscape all around Angkor Wat. All of the blue you see here are man-made water features. The tan-colored shapes are earthworks, and the dark brown are temples or other structures. Just in this one image alone, it's incredible to see how these ancient builders completely transformed this landscape. If we stay in this area for another moment, I want to spend a few minutes discussing what was found at the Eastern Baray. In this Google Earth image of the Angkor complex, you can see Angkor Wat here in the middle. The Western Baray is on the left side of the image, which still has water in it to this day. The Eastern Baray is here, now dried up, but with the outline still clearly visible from space. For scale, you can see the old international airport just south of the Western Baray. On the northeast corner of the East Baray, LiDAR uncovered another massive mound field, laid out in a 10 by 10 grid pattern, outlined by a square earthen embankment. This structure is almost exactly the same size as the Angkor Wat spirals, almost a mile long and half a mile wide. You're going to start to see a pattern here as we move through the rest of the LiDAR results. Mounds and spiral embankments built near large man-made water features. The Angkor complex and its surrounding barays and temples form the beating heart of the empire. Tourists that visit Cambodia can spend their entire trip in just this one area and still not see it all. But some of the most incredible mysteries actually lie outside of this area. 50 kilometers northeast of Angkor lies Phnom Kulen, a sandstone plateau rising nearly 500 meters above the Angkor Plain. This region supplied millions of tons of stone for the empire's capital. You can see it has a thick jungle canopy, but you can still make out signs of the ancient quarries on the distant hillsides. This area is most famous for being home to the Phnom Kulen National Park and its River of 1,000 Lingas, where intricate carvings of lingas and Hindu deities are carved directly into the sandstone of the riverbed. The Phnom Kulen LiDAR block, highlighted in red on this map, revealed an entire undocumented city, believed by archaeologists to be Mahendra Parvata, a site referenced in Khmer inscriptions but previously unlocated. Spanning 10 kilometers by 15 kilometers, this city includes highways, undocumented temples, dams, and urban elements etched into the mountain's surface beneath the jungle. A massive reservoir, 1,000 meters long and 330 meters wide, was uncovered, with long earthen dikes and evidence of bedrock removal to deepen it. This reservoir would have formed a rectangular body of water inundating over 85 acres. On its western side is the Temple of Rongchen. This tiny dot on this huge map is actually a multi-tiered pyramid built entirely from laterite blocks, measuring 100 meters per side at its base. On top of the pyramid, there's a laterite platform with a large sandstone pedestal at the center. Below the pedestal, there was a well that was excavated in the 1930s. As you can see from the excavation photos, inside this well, archaeologists uncovered a puzzling cruciform sandstone block. I could tell you so many stories about mysterious archaeological discoveries just like this one at nearly every site in Cambodia. South of the reservoir, a channel was discovered in the southernmost part of the valley that was engineered to redirect water that naturally flowed north into the 1 kilometer long structure that instead channels water south. There's evidence here for water control mechanisms carved into the stone. These structures diverted water over the escarpment and down into the area between Phnom Kulen and the site called Beng Mealea, which I'll talk about more in a moment. Just in this one area, there are at least 5 major dams. There was also 15 distinct mound fields comprising nearly 400 individual mounds. There's even one large mound field just west of the River of 1,000 Lingas. In 2013, some of these mounds were excavated, revealing little of archaeological interest. Their meaning and function remain a complete mystery. Before wrapping up with Phnom Kulen, I must briefly discuss the site of Beng Mealea. Located 40 kilometers east of Angkor, Beng Mealea was once a key outpost linked to the capital by roads and canals. This rectangular complex, enclosed by a moat, spans over 3 kilometers west to east, with a causeway and terrace at its eastern entrance, connecting to a large baray. LiDAR revealed a grid-like urban layout within the temple area, far more complex than previously thought, and another spiral embankment southwest of the moat, nearly identical to those discovered at Angkor Wat. A recent discovery near Beng Mealea adds some mystery. In 2020, a local uncovered a sandstone Makara head, part lion, part sea creature from Hindu mythology, part of an aqueduct feeding water into the moat at Beng Mealea. While Beng Mealea is officially dated to the late 12th century, the Makara style suggests a 6th century origin, raising questions about the timeline of construction and use. Why build an aqueduct centuries before the temple it serves? This is one of the many dating inconsistencies across Cambodia. Finally, let's discuss Preah Khan of Kompong, Svay. A bit of a mouthful, so from now on I'm simply going to call it PKKS. There's a specific reason I've chosen this site for discussion today, which I'll get to in a minute. This site is the easternmost regional outpost of the empire, 100 kilometers east of Angkor and connected by a road through Beng Mealea. This vast, flat temple complex spans 5 square kilometers, larger than many Angkor temples, with 4 concentric enclosures and a central temple. A 4-kilometer-long moat surrounds the complex, and a baray to the east measures 3 kilometers long and nearly a kilometer wide. LiDAR revealed a previously unknown urban settlement grid extending 9 square miles outside the temple complex. This was previously entirely unknown to archaeologists and reveals that this must have been a thriving metropolis. It also revealed extensive mound fields, as well as 2 different areas near the temple containing spiral embankments, again in close proximity to standing bodies of water, one at the northwest corner and another along the west side. Intriguingly, the spiral embankments at Angkor Wat, Beng Mealea, and PKKS align along an extremely narrow latitudinal band. In fact, the difference between Angkor Wat and PKKS, north to south, is only about 460 meters. Beng Mealea is about 7 kilometers north of the other 2. But generally, these structures seem to be in a nearly straight line east to west over a 100-kilometer distance. What were these spiral embankments and mound fields for? Of course, I don't know. But if you allow yourself to embark on a thought experiment, you can begin to imagine scenarios where these ancient builders may have been tapping into natural forces in ways we don't understand today. Were these structures actually sophisticated machines, harnessing geomagnetic or atmospheric energy? Did the surrounding water serve a functional role, perhaps for cooling or energy transfer? Did they enable long-range communication? Or were they purely spiritual or agricultural in nature? I don't have the answers, but I'd love to hear your thoughts, especially if you work in a related field. If this episode has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to see these sites for yourself, I'd again encourage you to sign up for our trip to Cambodia in November. We'll be visiting most of these places I discussed today, along with many that I didn't, with private presentations exploring their mysteries, including exploring the magnetic properties of the building materials, discussing the enigmatic lathe-cut spindles, and more discussions on the possible true age of these sites. We've even arranged for a walking tour of the mound fields and spiral embankments to investigate them up close. For more on these topics, please watch my videos on Angkor Wat with Derek Olson and Sambor Prey Cook, linked below. More Cambodia content, including footage from our site visits, is coming soon. Thank you for joining me to explore the mysteries of ancient Cambodia. Please subscribe, leave a review on your favorite platform, or follow me on Instagram, X, and Facebook at Secrets in Stone. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.